More than 50 years ago, doctors in the U.S. and Western Europe prescribed the drug thalidomide to their female patients for, among other things, nausea and morning sickness in pregnant women. The drug had tragic outcomes, whose effects are still being felt today. In the late 1950s, reports of abnormalities in children whose mothers had used the drug during pregnancy began to come in. The best known and most heartbreaking of these abnormalities was missing limbs. Not surprisingly, within a few years, the drug was taken off the market. But the tragic story of thalidomide doesn't end there. As historian Daniel K. Williams tells us in his new book, Defenders of the Unborn, the thalidomide tragedy opened the door to legalized abortion in the United States. Supporters of liberalized abortion laws seized upon the tragedy to justify expanding the availability of abortion, which at the time was mostly limited to cases where the mother's life was in danger. They argued that women who had taken thalidomide should have the right to abort their unborn child, even though there was no way of knowing whether their babies had been affected by the drug. Their argument, as Williams documents, was that the fear of giving birth to a handicapped child was enough to justify expanding the availability of abortion. The tragic pictures of children without limbs, along with some high-profile cases, swayed state legislatures, including California, in 1966. By 1972, 20 states had legalized abortion in instances where their mother's life and physical health were not threatened. 50 years later, in a different part of the Americas, history, if not repeating itself, is at least looking to rhyme, as Mark Twain might have said. Eric Metaxas recently told you on Breakpoint about how the Zika epidemic in Latin America is being used by abortion rights supporters as a wedge against the region's protection of unborn life. The thin edge of this wedge is the presumed link between Zika and microcephaly, a neurodevelopmental disorder characterized by significantly smaller head size.